Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is a update video and as well as two other things I want to bring up. I know this is now 40 days for me in quarantine because I hope everyone is doing safe and okay during these desperate times right now. So here we are, May of 2020, and what have I done during this time of crisis with the rest of the world, and particularly as a fan of Power Rangers? Well, before I go ahead and talk about two other things that's based on the title of this vlog update video, I want to tell you guys about an update I wanted to tell you about my Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy fan film series. During this time of quarantine and, with the pandemic still going on, I was doing some stuff for Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy Infinite Frontier before the pandemic busted out. Sometime in the second week of March, because the last day I worked on anything until the pandemic was on March the 6th. And here I am 3 months later. I had been, and then during the months of the pandemic here in the United States, I started slowly losing interest in Infinite Frontier, which I really should have never wanted to lose interest, because this has already reminded me of time, because even though before we get to September, because when I started this channel, when I started this Power Rangers fan film channel, I remember I did a video setup like this back when I started the channel back in 2012. If for those who've seen the video, I did do a video like this in this kind of setup when I said I was going to do a fan film reboot of Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy, which I did, which basically when I look at that movie now, in retrospect, since I'm, pushing 30, and the channel will be 10 years old in 2 years, which is crazy enough because time is flying. Now it feels like I want to do another fan film reboot of Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy and cancel Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy 3 of that series of films that most people didn't like over the last decade. Because, see, when I started doing these fan films, I wasn't taking the shit seriously, the thing I was doing seriously. Because you know how it is, when you're young, in your late teens, early 20s, just starting out doing stuff. I was in that rut. The films I've done, that being Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy 2014 and The Wrath of Trakeena, I was doing these films in my early to mid 20s to the point I was not taking the stuff seriously. I was not taking my craft of doing the films in this medium with one of these puppets seriously. And my intentions for Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy 3 was, spoiler alert, I'm going to try to make the third movie of the trilogy more serious than the first two movies. Because if you haven't seen 2014 and Wrath of Trakeena, you'll see what I was talking about. Because when I did those fan films in 2014 and 2018, I wasn't being serious with the source material. I wasn't being serious with my fanaticism of Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy when doing the fan films. Even though there's still, again, it's a OC fanfic weeb shit of the source material that I've been doing for a long time. And as I'm approaching 30, I feel like now I need to start taking the projects I'm making very seriously, because I'm no longer that, that attention-seeking 20, 21, 22-year-old anymore when I was doing this kind of stuff. Because you have to realize that times have changed now, and especially with the days of this pandemic, and due to the fact that 2020s, I was really hoping for 2020 to be a better year for me, and realizing that you guys should know that during most of my 20s, as a Power Rangers fan, and that's why you see me wearing a MMPR shirt, but even though it looks a lot like something from the Boom comics, even though I don't have no interest in the comics at this time, I was going through a rut of emotions making those two fan films, especially my magnum opus fan film project, The Rise of Trakeena, which is now going on 10 years since I started being part of the Power Rangers fandom and doing it since. But now here I am, knowing I will be turning 28 this September anyway, by the way, because it will be 10 years since I started having that passion to make fan films of Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy with something like this. But now it seems like here I am pushing my third decade of my existence. I think as time went on, I feel like people don't care for this anymore. And it's not a farewell. I'm not doing this as a farewell video or anything. No. Maybe I'll probably do a farewell video in 2022. Who knows? But I don't really want to quit right now because there's stuff I want to do before I turn 30, because what's left of my 20s, you know, even though as I phase out. Because I think when I even go through a process like this, when I phase out of my 30s, next decade, when I push 40, because next decade, 90s kids, we're going to be turning 40 next decade. So I got a lot of time to go before I'd be considered, oh, too old. I'm an old fart. I can't do this stuff no more. And because knowing I've been doing this so much that it's like, I guess maybe people who used to watch this when I was around that same age bracket, because my age demographic for this content is still those 18 to 24-year-old male, mostly, not much 18 to 24 female watching the content. And I'm surprised that there are still, my target audience is still 18 to 24. Well, no, I'm past that demographic now. I'm past the age bracket. I'm now the 25 to 34 age bracket, where, okay, it's like after I turn 25, it's like I'm slowly losing, you know, my peak, and I'm past my prime now. But you see, when I was 18 to 24, I was a very naive, stupid, unrealized, incompetent wannabe filmmaker in the fan. But now you would think at 25 and over, I think people need to start taking me seriously and start taking this stuff I've been doing seriously. Because when I was doing the stuff in the past, when I was, you know, if you've seen my channels as Humble Beginnings, when I was 18 to 24, people just thought of me like I was just a little kid or a teenager. A teenager in his early in a early 20-something young man's body at that, by the way, if you will, was doing these films. And of course I had so many, you know, some negative responses because people just didn't take me seriously, because you know how it is when you're young and stupid. But now you would think that as I'm pushing 30, I think it's time people need to take this thing I'm doing serious, because I can try to continue to do Power Rangers fan films with paper dolls, but this time I'm going to try to be tonally different, because when I look back on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014 and Power Rangers Lost Galaxy The Wrath of Trakina, both of those fan films, when I look back on them now in 2020, they were terrible. I mean, you can tell, but I have to suck it up and accept and take gratitude that I actually made those films. But yeah, they were awful movies, and I realized that when I made them when I was that young, before 27, now 28, while I'm doing the third movie, I mean, people wasn't going to take me so seriously, because I just wasn't taking myself seriously then. And that's why I took a break off of YouTube in 2019 for a lot of the year of 2019, and even following last fall when we had the COPPA FTC regulations with YouTube now, and that's why I had to take a long break off. Like I was saying, I wasn't taking the stuff I was doing seriously. So when I finish Power Rangers Lost Galaxy Infinite Frontier, hopefully you'll see what I was trying to do during this time. And because this is my last movie of that iteration of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan films that people saw what I was making at the time was not me taking the shit seriously. Because people like the joke and hope and joke about me playing with puppets, and no, in fact, I'm going to try to do a serious film with puppets, because this is something I wanted to do for the last 18 years, but I failed to take seriously. Speaking of that, the next topic about my update vlog is my mental health update. You know, this also has to correlate to, based on what I still keep having issues about from when those people in Ranger Board 6 years ago, when I read their fan film discussion thread, when there was some ramblings about my Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film stuff from back in the day before to today. When I heard what those people in Ranger Board was talking about me when they finally saw that shit cut of my first movie, One person in the Power Rangers fandom on the forum was speculating I might had mental issues when doing the movie. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm this, that yes, I had mental health issues when I did that first movie, even when I did Wrath of Trakina at the same time. You guys, I'm not going to ask you all for sympathy or anything for me, but I'm not asking you for that. But it's just I just wanted to tell you how I feel with these mental health issues I was suffering when doing the movies. During this time in quarantine, I had started seeing a therapist. I made it clear back in a vlog video last year when I was posting less content that I wanted to see some therapy because I needed there was a lot of stuff I needed to get off my shoulders from the last decade that has been bugging me to death, and all the harsh stuff that happened during my early young adult life for the last decade, since I was 18 up to today, 27 going on 28. Because if you haven't noticed, I have been suffering from some mental health issues like depression. And I've been suffering from depression since I was a teenager, a decade and a half ago, since 2006, and long before I was even part of the Power Rangers fandom, doing YouTube and being on social media. Because based on those speculations from some jerk ass on Ranger Board, when some people in the fandom were talking some terrible stuff about my fan film thing of PRLG from 6 years ago, I guess that was true, because I'm going to confirm that I had mental health issues at the time. And I actually, in fact, was going through mental health issues, because for those who saw all my old Terror Venture podcasts, some of my other miscellaneous videos that were not related to my fan film stuff in any way, because I was, people just didn't took me seriously back then. I was, in fact, going through mental health issues. I was going through a lot of negative life events. And also this year is 5 years coming up come September since I lost my dad. I was also going through a lot of other mental health issues like anxiety. And I was, during one of my sessions this week at the time of the recording of this vlog, I talked to my therapist via Zoom. My therapist is a woman, by the way. I told, when I had to do some when I had to do some treatment plan, and when she asked me some questions about my mental health status on a scale of 1 to 5 for the questions. Now, the end result, this is me coming out with my mental health issue. This is a coming out mental health related video. I am a sufferer of post-traumatic stress disorder. So thinking back to this painful decade of the 2010s, this past painful decade for me, and as a Power Rangers fan, that would also somewhat explain, for those who were watching all my old stuff when it was still up on this channel, when people hear me talk shit about the Neo Saban era, or if you like the 2017 movie or not, or if you like that Power/Rangers film, or if you liked Megaforce and all that, for those who would hear me talk like an asshole, I was going through that state because I didn't care about what other Power Ranger fans, outside of something like a fan film project that's made for money or not, was all the topic, was all tip of the iceberg for those fans, because I was suffering from some mental health issues, and I realized people were being rude about what I was going through, because what makes them any better to the fact that I was suffering from something. And I think I needed to be ignored. And I think the longer I stay ignored, I guess people don't want nothing to do with me because they think I'm probably up to no good or nothing. And I don't think that's the case. I was just going through some serious stuff. Okay? This last decade of Power Rangers and in this fan base for me, because you know how it is when you're in your youth, your adult youth in your 20s before 30, right? No, I'm going to be 30 in 2 years. When I turn 30, I'm going to be like, well, my 20s sucked, so I hope my 30s will be better, and pray to God for that. because this decade of my 20s was like anyone who's a 20-something now, if for any aspiring 20-something, please don't end up being like how I was in my 20s, like right now, because even though I only got this year and next year to go, and then before you know it, 2022, I'm going to be 30 already. I don't have to worry about my 20s anymore. And I think when I do future Power Ranger fan films, I'm going to tell everyone, ignore the fan films I was doing in the 2010s, that being Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014 and Wrath of Trakeena, because those two fan films that are on my channel right now, I made those in a time when I was just being a naive 20-something, before 25 years old, where I was acting stupid. And I was also going through mental health issues while also acting like an attention-seeking man-whore dumbass during the time. You can go, ha, 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 all you want about that, but this is serious, okay? Because you can think I'm you can think everything I say is retarded or whatever you want. I mean, for those out there watching. Because you just gotta look back on my channel's history and my content history leading up to today and see what I'm doing right now and leading up to this point. Because in this decade of Power Rangers, and with me doing this channel and so forth in the future, I want to start being taken seriously, because I wasn't taken serious before in the past because I was young. And when I turned 30, I just want respect and support from everyone while I'm doing this now, because this is why I took the time last year not doing anything related to Power Rangers when Hasbro bought the franchise and stuff. I just didn't want to do content about the show anymore much, besides fan commentaries. And even though I originally wanted to do a fan commentary on Trakeena's Revenge only, but I've realized, screw it, I'll probably just do fan commentaries for some episodes that are noteworthy for me. But again, yeah, I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of the things that happened in my young 20-something life before this point in my late 20s, now pushing 30. When you're in your 20s, especially your early 20s at best and worst, the burdens and the struggles and the pressure can get to you. Because if you look back on my old videos when I was in my early 20s, I was pressured. I was pressured a lot with some people. And some things based on some requests to do some videos to please that person or that person, I just couldn't do it back then. But what makes you think I'll do it now when the time was available? But you see, I was told by those older than me, I have nothing but time. But do you think I do have the time to still do what I could have done before this point? That was the thing. And also post-traumatic stress in terms of stuff that happened related to my fan film before 2014. Because, this year is my 10-year anniversary since I've been, doing that fan film of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, The Rise of Trakeena, and knowing to the fact that fan film can't be made today, because here's a difference between 10 years ago me versus 10 years later me right now. 10 years ago me, I was still in high school. And I was in my last year, my 12th grade year in high school, doing a video production class. And when I was doing some videos for the class, I personally was doing a fan film project of Power Rangers at the time. But that was when I was a naive, pissant asshole teenager who also was being an attention-seeking man whore. Basically, I was doing the fan film out of attention, and even I was doing this stuff out of attention too, because I wanted people to feel sorry for me. But I realized this was not the way to go. And when I look at the stuff I've been doing leading up to me in my 30s, I realize I was just being an attention seeker, and that's what led to me suffering these mental health issues. Because I wanted validation from people, but I realized that's not the way to go. Now, I wanted people to like what I do, but that was not the way to go. But though I'm surprised that my YouTube channel has now gained 1,400 some subscribers, now 1,420 subscribers now at the time of this video. And the Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film Facebook page has now gained 4,000 likes. But basically, do I even deserve to have that much likes or subscribers after what I've gone through? And see, basically, I was doing all of this because I wanted to call myself a filmmaker. I wanted to be known and stuff. But see, I realize now this stuff is now caught up to me after 10 years when I was 18. Although I'm not 18 anymore, and I'm like 10 years past that now. I'm going to be 28 soon. And it's now catching up to me to the point, all of this that I had, all the stuff I've been going through for the last 10 years is now culminating, even in this time of the pandemic of coronavirus and stuff right now, quarantine. It's all now catching up to me because this is 10 years of me doing fan films of Power Rangers in this medium. And I appreciate the support with the subscribers, the likes and stuff on Facebook and stuff. But during that downtime, I was being insecure about other Power Ranger fans' movies and stuff at the time. And what other Power Ranger fans want compared, Also, I was suffering from PTSD because about the fan film again. Because I was going through some trauma over what I did about this person I wanted to play Trakina when I did the fan film back in high school 10 years ago. But that person is gone now after I had been, you can tell that I did have a crush on this person when I was younger, but I don't have a crush on her now because she's gone, she's gone and out of my life now. But back when I was in her life and when I was just a student getting out of high school and stuff, this was a teacher or so. I'm going to say that this woman was a teacher. And when I wanted this person to do the thing back 10 years ago, I was out of control. I was seriously out of control when I was younger. And I was out of control when I was in, 20, 21, 22, 23. Because, of course, in life, my actions and anyone's actions can have consequences. And I was going to be the one that was going to suffer the consequences afterwards throughout the rest of the decade. Because I realized that what I was doing was stupid. It was real stupid because I should have never did what I did. And I think one of my biggest regrets why I've been beating myself up about that also, I should have never had her to be, when I was doing the fan film with something like this again, the puppets, maybe I should have never got her for Trakina when I did. I should have did this whole thing by myself because this was my passion. This was my responsibility. This was no one else's responsibility and passion but mine. But then I treated this, as time went on, as I get close to 30, I realized the pressure of doing that fan film, even leading up to me pushing 30 now, is what led to me having PTSD because I was, every day and night I thought about over these last 10 years, thinking about what I could have done and stuff. I was overthinking things a bit much too, by the way. While also going through PTSD symptoms, like difficulty sleeping and concentrating and stuff and depression. And having flashbacks of things that I see from other people doing some scenarios like what I was doing when I was their age. And I was like, I'm working on refraining from thinking about that stuff. Because it is something that was a part of me and was a part of my life back then, my young life. And I don't even know if I want to tell that in a movie one day, because if I tell it in a Power Rangers movie, it's not going to be Power Rangers. Because, how would you feel if I did a Power Rangers fan film story where you had a male Red Ranger and suppose this lady that the Red Ranger had a crush on ended up being a villain. A surprise villain being a villain we know in a reimagined version of them in a fan film or whatever reboot movie story that's based on something similar to what I was doing. But no, that's considered what? Self-insertion fan fiction, right? So I have to tell a story that would fit the franchise, not something that fits something for a stupid, crappy Lifetime movie or something. And part of me wanted to do a fan film of Power Rangers that was partly what I was going through. And realizing I should only do that with characters I would create and not take characters fans know. And then people would hate me for it. if I took characters like, if I took a Red Ranger like Leo from Lost in Galaxy and he dealt with a woman who would be basically Trakina in the skies, and I told that same kind of story, what fan of Power Rangers would like that kind of story? I was suffering from post-traumatic stress for a while, and I had wrote it down on a notebook of mine where I had to write down some of the things I was going through, because I realized I was doing these films out of pressure, and I was doing this just to call myself a filmmaker, like I said. So I was having, all kinds of mental issues like depression, anxiety. Good thing, God forbid, I don't have bipolar disorder. Otherwise, shit would have hit the fan for me if I was diagnosed with some bipolar depression or something. Even though people should know that I am autistic, no lie, because even though I'm not much as important as anyone who makes videos on YouTube and stuff. But when I talked to my therapist about my PTSD, I had to bring up what I've been going through leading up to my treatment plans and goals on recovery. And in fact, I told her about some of the things I wanted to tell the entire Power Rangers fandom, and those who wanted to be aspiring filmmakers, and who wanted to do Power Ranger fan films one day, and don't end up like what I was doing. This is one of the reasons why people look, when they see anything I post on YouTube, people say I'm just a joke, I'm a dumbass, or I don't know how to make a fan film, I don't know how to, whatever. Because that stuff kind of hurted me. And that's why I've been so silent for most of 2019 and even before that. While I was doing the podcast, when I was doing Power Ranger toy reviews and stuff, or doing any videos related to the show, or calling out someone who thinks they are better than anyone in the fandom, and I'm not no better than anyone. Back then versus me today on this channel, I acted like I was better than other Power Ranger fans, but the truth is, I'm not. I realize I'm just some no-name punk who just was going through issues personally that I don't want to burden on anyone else or any aspiring 20-something right now, because I don't want them to go through what I've been going through, or anyone in the same scenario as me. And I have to realize I'm not alone with my mental health problems. That's why I was taking things out on those who would talk shit about me. If they didn't like my content, then why do some of those people, those that would hate me for hate me so much, or they just don't like what I do or like what I say? Because, well, people may think I'm coming off too negative. I've been strongly negative a lot. And because I was unsatisfied with my life at the time, and I'm slowly trying to get over that stuff. And just respect that if people are doing great with their Power Ranger fan film projects or whatever they're doing in the fandom, if they like the comics, they like the comics. If they, go for it with the comics. If you like the toys with the Lightning collection, go for it. I'm still going to continue doing Lightning collecting. It's just the problem is I was being very insecure, and I was having serious self-esteem issues. And that's something I need to work on, because there were a bunch of Power Ranger fans that were making these high concept fan films, like those of the Unworthy series, or Shattered Past, or all of those, or even past Power Ranger fan films I made back when I was in my prime doing a fan film of Power Rangers Lost in Galaxy with the puppets. Like, again, that MMPR fan film that we didn't get. I was a very insecure, spoiled brat of a 20-something young man back then. And I have to continue proving to people that I'm past that now. Because that's why I haven't been posting a lot of stuff lately, because I just want to show people that I'm just as human as the rest of all of the world and the rest of the people still living on this earth. Because, see, mental illness is no sick joke. So for those who think mental illness is a joke, that is just pathetic for those out there who think people like me who suffer from PTSD or depression or anxiety is a joke. When knowing people who are that ignorant are the ones who are the real joke, because they're the ones laughing at themselves because they think what people like me was going through, that's pathetic for them. And I pity those people who laughed at me, mocked me, because I was doing something like this, or this entire channel. I understand, I'm trying to find my way on this platform. I'm trying to find my way as a Power Rangers fan to do great content. But of course, every piece of content I put out, of course, was nothing but shit. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, the content I've been putting out was shit because I didn't put enough effort to the content, because I can't use my mental health issues as an excuse. You can say I was being lazy, you can say I was being ignorant, you can say I'm being belligerent, you can say I'm being a immature asshole. You can say any of those things. And like I said, I'm going to continue to do what I care. Even though I haven't been putting my focus on the fan film, because there have been multiple factors. One, this pandemic. I'm trying to keep myself safe from getting contracted with COVID-19. Two, I'm trying to get myself back together personally and mentally because of the stuff that was happening to me for the last 10 years. Long before I even knew most of you in the Power Rangers fan base, on my Facebook groups, this channel, on Instagram. Even though I've never met most of some of you out there, in the millions out there on certain Power Ranger fandom type groups and stuff, on Ranger Board or on Toku Nation or any of those that go to conventions and meet Power Ranger actors and stuff like that. And oh yeah, Power Morphicon is postponed because of COVID-19. And it was supposed to happen this year, but due to the fact the severity of COVID-19 had overtook California, because I look at California and the map of COVID-19's pandemic, the map is in a deep red for California. So that's why Power Morphicon 7 is pushed back to June next year. Not this year, but next year, 2021. Which will be, in fact, the same time I'm going to release my final Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film of that shit version that I've been doing for the last 10 years that people didn't take me serious for. So, basically, speaking of that, again, let's go back to that. I did start losing interest in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3's production. I know it seems like it's kind of dead to the point, well, let's face it, I'm going to say that the coronavirus pandemic killed my plans for 2020 to finish this, because it kind of killed it. I mean, worse than that deratio, when that deratio from 8 years ago when it killed the power supply to my old desktop computer before the computer I'm using now, 8 years later. But this pandemic is some serious shit. I had plans to do stuff for Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3 for the rest of 2020. But it feels like now that the longer this pandemic persists, I may never get to finish this movie by the end of the year. So you know what? I don't even know if I want to cancel Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3 altogether and do this fan film reboot, because if you look at the Lost Galaxy Pink Ranger puppet, for example, if you've been on my fan film page for this content, you saw this. This is going to be a puppet of the Galaxy Rangers for the PRLG reboot of them. And this time I'm going to use do the real Lost Galaxy Rangers of Leo, Damon, Kai, Maya, and Kendrix in that film. And I mean it, because when I did my OC Weebish version of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy that everyone, will continue to refuse and just refuse seeing those films I did. And when Infinite Frontier comes out, don't expect it to be good, because don't expect it to be silly or whatever, but it's going to be the third movie. it's going to be more of a downer. You can be like, ha ha, oh, you're just being a troll again. No, no, no. When I do finish it, when the film is done, if it does get done, it's not going to be silly and shit like it was, like those other movies I was doing. Because yeah, those movies were hee 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 ha ha and all that stupid silly me being a troll and stuff. When the truth was, I was going through problems. I was going through a lot of problems when doing those movies. That's why it's been harder for me to be recognized. And I realized I wanted to be recognized just for the sake of things. I wanted to be famous for the sake of things. But this was not the way to go. I'm not asking you all for sympathy for me and stuff. I just hope most of you understand what I was going through for the last 10 years being part of the fandom. Even being just only one person doing this fan film content, controlling this YouTube channel, the Facebook page for this channel, and the fan film thing, the Instagram account for the fan film thing, or my personal Twitter. I just hope a lot of you out there in the Power Rangers fan base understand what I was going through. For those who hate me because I was doing a paper doll Lost Galaxy fan film project. Even though, yeah, the first few times I've done it, yeah, this is why I can't even look back on those movies now anymore. Because I look back on them, yeah, they were stupid. They were stupid movies. I want to finish the trilogy on a serious note, but then at the end, it's just going to be like the Star Wars prequels. First two movies everybody hated, the third movie everybody liked, but then overall the trilogy was good, and what do I have to do now? End my reign of doing fan films of Power Rangers and let someone else do a better Lost Galaxy fan film project? And I hope it better be a real one with a budget and stuff, because what I was doing all this time, I was just... I was doing this fan film stuff as a hobby. I don't see why I had trolls and stuff, people like that, of that nature, back when I was starting out on YouTube 6-7 years ago, bully me and harass me because they don't like that this fan film stuff was going to be that, because it was going to be different from typical Power Ranger fan film fluff in the fandom. When I started, yeah, the 2014 film sucked. Wrath of Trakina could be no worse, because no one told me to make a 3-hour Power Rangers Lost Galaxy fan film. Well, Infinite Frontier is going to be 3 hours, but this time it's going to be reasonable for it to be a 3-hour film. I know my last movie's not going to be some Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame level kind of movie. I just wanted to make that film as a farewell to that iteration. This fan fiction version of it that I've been doing for so long. Because people didn't care for it. And it wasn't getting nowhere, and I just felt, as soon as I get to Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3, after I've done that Trakina-focused fan film for a whole decade, where is it to go with the series now? I mean, not only did I was doing this thing out of obsession for that character, and I was, I realized it's just, Trakina, like a lot of Power Ranger villains and Power Ranger characters and other fictional characters in general, she's just a fictional character. If the character was real, how mental I would be about her, have a crush, but that's wrong. It's wrong. But, and then, I spent a whole decade doing that film because it was something I wanted to do. But now it has gotten me nowhere but a rabbit hole and a downward spiral where I wanted to take up some addictions like gambling and stuff like that. Because I was I was just so mentally and emotionally hurt because of that fan film. Not Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 2014, but the rise / wrath of Trakina, because of how things turned out for it. Because that's why I need to see some help. And I'm glad I was brave enough to call up a shrink so I can get myself back together after everything that's happened over the last 10 years for me. Okay, last but not least, quarantining. I told you earlier, I'm now 40 plus days into quarantine now since this pandemic started. I don't even know how long this is going to keep on going, because it feels like this is probably going to be all of 2020, basically, almost. And I think this is probably why there ain't no new movies out. There ain't no movies to see at this time. There is nothing out there to do outside right now because this pandemic, it's killed over thousands and thousands of people. So it's best to keep my butt here at home until further notice and stay here and have some time to work on some new videos. And I'll give you another update on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3 until further notice sometime when really, because I don't even know how long this pandemic is going to go, because it feels like it's probably going to be all of 2020 until the beginning of 2021, they say, until a vaccine is made and stuff, because that's going to take forever. At the time of this video also, we're close to the summer, and there's rumors that the summer heat will probably kill the virus. We don't know. But I don't even know if I want to start or restart production on Power Rangers Lost Galaxy 3 and just fast track the third movie so I can get started on this reboot and start this planned Power Rangers fan film cinematic universe thing, starting with my Lost Galaxy fan film project. And probably, for the sake of nostalgia, a Mighty Morphin fan film project, for the hell of it. Because when all of these fan films of Power Rangers, like MMPR, Zora and Veltar, Power / Rangers, the Unworthy series and them came out, I didn't want to do MMPR for fan films because it would just be too obvious as a Power Rangers fan, even though you see me wearing an MMPR shirt. Because I just didn't want to do MMPR because I wanted to do my favorite Power Rangers. But in a different medium, by the way. But it's just, until when this is all over, this quarantine, this pandemic, I don't even know if it will be over. I just gotta hope and pray every day, when is this ever going to end? Because they even say this pandemic will likely last until 2022, but then by the time I turn 2022, and when it's over, I already turned 30 already. And then when I turn 30, then I'm going to be like, it's time to throw this shit away and grow up and be a man and all that stuff. So, yeah, so I've basically been hanging in there. I just been posting less and less videos during this time. I mean, I know this is just like 7 years ago. I only posted one video in May. Or 2 videos in May, like I did in 2013. And here I am 7 years later, I'm posting a video or 2 in May. So, but hang in there, Ranger Nation, and PR Lost Galaxy 2014 patrons. So that's my update on the fan film, my mental health status, and quarantine. I hope you guys understand what's happening and what's going on with me and why I need to let this all out and have everyone know. And even for those out in the fandom, know what was going on with me. And I hope everyone understands. So anyway, guys, that's it. Now stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time with a new video.